The only reason this man was able to murder Kate Steinly, of course, was because San Francisco was protecting him from deportation despite 5 prior deportations and 7 felony convictions. Ryan Eller is executive director at Define American, and he joins us now. Mr. Eller, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tucker.
So what's the lesson of this?
You know, this is a real tragedy, and I can tell you as a person of faith, we mourn the loss of everybody who dies at the hands of violence, and I hope the whole nation continues to pray, as I think Attorney General just said he was, for the family of, you know, Kate Steinly. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this. I think it's a legitimate conversation to have about our criminal justice system. I think where we start getting into really troubled waters is when we, you know, talk more about sanctuary cities and relationships between local governments and federal governments, and somehow make this more about immigrants and immigration as opposed to this really tragic and unfortunate case.
Well, I mean, but this case was specifically about immigration. This was someone who'd been deported from the country 5 times rather, but convicted 7 times of felonies, who shouldn't have been here, and was only on the street because the city ignored the federal law and the request from the Obama administration's Justice Department, by the way, to hold him. And so, I mean, it actually wouldn't have happened with different immigration policies. So you don't think that's fair to draw those connections?
Well, here's what I do know. I'm a follower of Scripture, and in Leviticus it says, treat the immigrant as a citizen among you. And if the Attorney General wants to bring charges and follow the letter of the law, it seems to me that this person has, had due process and gone to court, and a jury has made some decisions in this case.
Wait, just to be clear, are you suggesting that the federal government ought to abide by the laws spelled out in Leviticus?
No, I'm suggesting that the federal government would like to treat this person according to the laws within our land. That would be fair, and I think that that's what we expect within our justice system. What I would also suggest, though, regarding your point on sanctuary cities, is that all of the empirical research says that cities with sanctuary policies are actually safer.
Actually, I don't know. The empirical evidence does not say that, and I know that this isn't your area, so I won't attack you for it. But in fact, that's wrong. And there's no evidence that a sanctuary city, well, actually, this has been studied, and there's no evidence that sanctuary policies make a city safer. In fact, there's some evidence they make them more dangerous. But the point is, look, I don't understand why religious figures, clearly yourself included, would encourage municipalities to ignore federal law when I don't see why that's your role, actually, as a faith leader. And if it's okay for people to ignore this federal law, why isn't it okay for them to ignore gun control laws or laws about paying your taxes? When did clergy get on the side of ignoring the law? I don't see any precedent for that in the New Testament. Do you?
Oh, absolutely. I think if we view the law as unjust and as marginalizing particular communities, sure. But the issue of sanctuary is fundamentally about asking the federal government to do its job and local governments to do its job. I don't care whether they call it sanctuary or not. I, frankly, Tucker, prefer that we use that term in faith communities and not local governments. I pay my taxes as a citizen to my local government to protect local taxpayers, and those taxpayers include undocumented Americans, some of whom are now, unfortunately, afraid to call the police if they're being abused or if a crime's being committed on them because they're afraid of deportation.
The people who are here illegally. I wish you showed as much concern for the people who are here legally, who were born here, who abided by the rules, who came here legally. I don't understand the emphasis, the total emphasis on people who are breaking the law over and against people who are following the law. I think it's bizarre, actually.
Well, you know, I mean, you're, I think, trying to make people criminalized when actually being in this country without the proper authorization is not a crime. It's a civil offense.
Right. Okay.
And so I think we should be clear about that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Tuck.